Amazon recently announced that in November they're going to be releasing the Kindle Scribe, which will be the first ever Kindle that you can write on and take notes or keep notebooks on. And my heart leapt when I first saw this announcement on the Amazon homepage. It was finally happening. The Kindle Scribe will allow you to keep to-do lists and journals and mark up ebooks, at least in the Kindle format. And while this is something that's new with Kindles, it's been on Kobo devices as well as some other e-ink screens for quite a while now. But after watching through the teaser video for the new Kindle Scribe and learning about some of the features that it has or doesn't have, I'm going to explain why I think that I'll be holding off on upgrading to this new Kindle Scribe for a while. As excited as I was to see a Kindle you can mark up your ebooks with a pen, there are still a couple of factors that I think will take away from my current reading process and how I learn from ebooks. So I want to see how those are going to play out first. The first point I have is that the notes that you take with the stylus are not going to be visible on the page, but are going to show up in the side margins as stickies that you have to open up in order to see what your notes were. This isn't totally different from how we normally take notes in Kindle format, but there are other ebook devices like the Kobo Ellipsa that allow you to mark up directly on the page as if you were writing on a real piece of paper. So as you're interacting with the book, it's one step away from what would be ideal if you were to mark up the actual pages. And the most important factor here is with the next point, which is the Readwise integration and how this is going to work. So currently the notes that we take and type out in our Kindle can go directly into being stored in Readwise, which is how I go through and use spaced repetition to review any of the notes I've taken or the highlights from the books that I read. But until I see that we can actually take these handwritten notes that are in the stickies and somehow transfer them into our Readwise highlights for review, it could be a downgrade from my current learning process and how I like to review the notes that I take from the books that I read. And the argument is that handwriting is more natural than typing up thoughts for how we remember and store information. But when we think about it, writing's only been around for about 5,000 years. And so that's not enough time for us to evolutionarily change due to handwriting versus the more modern form of typing out notes. So the argument that handwriting is more natural than typing notes up for active recall is probably not very accurate. It's much more about the deliberate and active reading process rather than just passively reading. You could just be writing squiggles on a page or circling things and not really actively engaging with the material, but that doesn't mean that you are remembering more of that information. But I'd love to hear your thoughts. Will you be getting a Kindle Scribe when it comes out? Be sure to leave a comment below. Now, my next point is about the screen size. The screen size did get a big bump up from the Kindle Paperwhite and all the other existing Kindles that are e-ink screens, but I consider the Paperwhite to be the perfect form for travel. You can fit it in your pocket and it takes up practically no space. With the new larger screen size on the Kindle Scribe, as well as having to carry the pen around with you, it's going to be a lot harder to just throw in your backpack or stick in a pocket and take with you, whether that's for travel or on the go to work and your commute. And it's also going to be a lot harder to hold in one hand and just flip through pages while you're reading. But for note taking and having almost a full sheet of paper size screen to write on, it'll certainly be better for that, as well as certain types of books or PDFs that you haven't converted into the Kindle format, because you'll be able to read those pages much easier without having to zoom in a whole bunch and scroll around to read the text. My final point is that the Kindle is already a near perfect reading device, and I've mostly stopped reading physical books because of it. And I talk about it in this video here, so click on over to keep watching, and until the next video, find your flow.